Hello, and welcome to my Game Maker Studio 2 tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make empowered bullets. So first of all, I'll be giving you guys a demonstration. So it's important to note that my bullets, by default, they do 1 damage to enemies. The green enemies have 3 health, and the red enemies have 5 health. So it takes 3 bullets to kill the green enemies, and 5 bullets, 3, 4, 5, to kill the red enemies. And so what my empowered bullets do is that they add damage to my bullets, or they empower them to 3 damage instead of 1 damage. So if I can find a power-up that you guys can see, because they spawn randomly across the map over a certain time, I can demonstrate. There's one. Come on, if I can get it, please, please. It's kind of laggy because I'm kind of recording. So if you guys notice that the enemies are getting 1 shot now. The green enemies are getting 1 shot, and the red enemies are getting 2 shot. So how did I do all of this? So first of all, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create an object for the power up. So I'm going to call this obj empowered bullet power up. And I'm going to give it a sprite that I've already made in advance. We're going to call it, look, it's our OP power up sprite. And we are going to add an event, a create event, and we are going to assign a variable. So what we want to do is that when this power up spawns, we want it to despawn. So we're going to call it despawn. And how often do we want it to despawn? We want it to just despawn every 5 seconds, for example, because my game runs at 60 FPS. So let's set it to 300. So it despawns every 5 seconds. And we want it to set an alarm we want to set the alarm to despawn every 5 seconds. And so next we're going to add another event for when the alarm goes off, alarm 0. We want to destroy the instance so it despawns, and then we want to reset the alarm countdown to, let me just make sure that's despawn, set it back to despawn. And so we've made the power up itself. And so now after that, we want to make a spawner for the power up. So we want to call this object obj underscore empowered bullet spawner. Empowered bullet spawner. And we're not going to assign a sprite to it because it's a spawner, it's invisible. We're going to put it outside of the room. You guys aren't going to see it. So we're going to create a create event, and we're going to assign a variable to this object when the game starts. We're going to call this variable empowered bullet cooldown. Empowered bullet cooldown. So we're setting basically the spawn rate of the power up. So we want it to spawn, let's say, every 6 seconds. So we'll set the value to 360. So the power up spawn every 6 seconds. And then we're going to set an alarm so we can set the actual countdown for the spawn rate. So we're going to set it to empowered bullet cooldown. So I'll just copy and paste this, Command C, Command V. And so then we're going to add an event, an alarm event, alarm 0. And so once this alarm goes off, we want to create instance, create the power up itself. We want to create, where did I put it? It's not showing up here. Why is it not showing up? Oh, it's right here, that's why. In the folder I made, it's the obj underscore empowered bullet power up. And so where do we want it to spawn? So we want it to spawn randomly, so randomly across the x-axis, so random room, that's not how you spell room underscore width, and then how or where do we want it on the y-axis? So we want to copy this, Command V, and so we want to change width to height because it's the y-axis. And so what layer do we want it to spawn in? We want it to spawn on teleporter, teleporter and power-ups. That's the layer I have set for my power-ups. I'll show you right now. Rooms, space, I have teleporter and power-ups. And next, I want to, wait, I just did that. Okay, so once you create it, I want to reset the alarm for the spawn rate. So I want to reset it back to empowered bullet cooldown. So Command C, Command V. And then remember, you have to drag it, you have to drag the spawner onto the map for it to actually work. Now it doesn't really matter what layer you drag the spawner onto. Where can I find it? Oh, let's go all the way back up here. So let's drag the spawner anywhere on the map, really doesn't really matter. And then, so far we've established the object itself and the spawner. So now, so far, only the power up itself will spawn across the map, but no effects are added onto the player once you collide with the object. So now that we've established that so far, we can look into our player object. And so first of all, we want to go into the create event and we want to establish some variables. So we want to assign a variable, and we're going to call this variable empowered bullet. And so basically it's going to be set to where when you collide with the power-up, we want to give an effect to the player and for a certain time. So we want to set it to 0, or so when the player spawns in the room, it's going to have a value of 0 because it hasn't collided with the power-up yet. And so we're going to add a collision event with the power-up. I can screencast power-up. So when it collides with the power-up, we want to assign a variable. We're going to go empowered bullet from the variable we just made, empowered bullet, and we want to give it the variable 300. We want the effect to last for 5 seconds. And so we're going to go in, next we're going to go into the step event, and every frame we want the value of the duration of the power-up to decrease by 1. So we're going to assign variable. Let's get this out of the way. And assign variable empowered bullet empowered bullet value -1 relative. That's important to do relative because we don't want it to be set to -1. We want it to go down -1 from relatively what it is. Next, we want to add an if. Well, let's backtrack a bit. So before we just had a regular default bullet. So we have a cooldown for the bullet. I'm not gonna get into that. So it has a cooldown for 15. Every 15 frames you can shoot a bullet. But now that we have an empowered bullet, we have to readjust to that. So I'm going to get rid of all of this. And I'm going to add another if variable. If variable empowered bullet is less or equal to 0. So it's basically if you run out of the power-up, you're just going to shoot a regular bullet. So we're going to do a create instance. Yes, we're going to do a create instance and make sure that these green lines are squiggly. So it basically, if this is this, then this will happen. So we want to create a regular bullet because we don't have the power-up when the value empowered bullet is less than or equal to 0. So we want to just make a regular obj_bullet at where the player's x is and where the player's y is. on the layer underscore bullets. And so now what if we have the power up? Well, we want to put it under and not as a squiggly line. And we're just going to do the same thing again, basically. We're just going to do Command V. And this time, instead of less or equal, we want to put it to greater than 0. So if the value for the power-up, the power-up variable is greater than 0, meaning you have the power-up, you want to create an empowered bullet. So we want to create instance. I haven't made the power-up or the bullet yet. I will in a second, and I'm going to call it obj underscore empowered bullet. And then we want to spawn it on the same X of the player and the same Y as the player. So it looks like it's shooting from the spaceship. And we want to do the same layer. So Command C, Command V. Okay. Oh, I forgot to add an assign variable for whenever you create a bullet. Doesn't matter what kind. You want to reset the cooldown for your fire rate. So you set the cooldown to, I set it to 15, so it's used, so you can spawn, or you can create a bullet or shoot a bullet or shoot 4 bullets every second, basically. Assign variable to this one as well. Cooldown 15, and then I also forgot to add to this a destroy instance. So when you collide with it, it destroys the power up. And you also want to make it set to the power up and not the characters. So it's not where you die every time you collide with the power up. That wouldn't be good. See, so it says destroy the power up, not you. So other than that, that's pretty much it. So let's run the game, see if it works out. And I apologize for the length of this video. It was a pretty tedious process to show you guys. Hopefully it works. Okay, so this is the cooldown for the bullet is good. The game is also laggy because I'm recording right now. So 1, 2, 3. So it takes 5, and I'm one-shotting them. Amazing. So we've covered the spawning mechanics. So it randomly spawns across the map every 6 seconds. And you have the power up for 5 seconds. So it goes back to the regular bullets. Well, that's my power up. Thanks for watching, guys.